The kids are moving the mountain. Today, on the first full day of classes at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School since the Valentine's Day mass murder there, the Florida House of Representatives actually did something today on gun safety. They did something. The overwhelmingly Republican Florida House of Representatives, by a vote of 67 to 50, passed a bill that imposes a 3-day waiting period for most purchases of long guns and raises that minimum age for purchasing those weapons in Florida from 18 to 21. It also provides over $100 million to improve school security. None of it would have happened without the protests led by the students of Stoneman Douglas High. And also today, the Trump Secretary of Education, Betsy Devos, visited Stoneman Douglas High School, but did not allow reporters to cover her visit to the school. Many of the students had reactions to her visit on Twitter. Allie tweeted, "Do something unexpected. Answer our questions. You came to our school just for publicity and avoided our questions for the 90 minutes you were actually here. How do you actually do your job? Never again. Do your job." Secretary DeVos finally spoke to reporters after leaving the high school when she stopped at a hotel.
Let's be clear. I think it's to say arming teachers is a oversimplification and a mischaracterization, really. I think the concept is for those schools and those communities that opt to do this, as they have in Texas and as they have in Polk County and other places around the country, to have people who are expert in being able to defend and having lots and lots of training in order to do so.
Joining us now is David Hogg. He is a survivor of the attack at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. David, thank you very much for joining us once again. And I first of all wanted to get your reaction to what you actually accomplished today, and you get the credit for it, the legislation that passed the House of Representatives in Florida.
Well, I think my reaction to that is it's a small step in a much bigger movement. I'm glad to see that we've finally seen some movement. But the fact is that until Governor Rick Scott actually signs off on this bill, none of this has really mattered unless it's signed into law. And along with that, it's just the fact that everything that we've been doing, I shouldn't be taking credit for this. It's everybody that's been there, everybody that was there in Tallahassee from the beginning, and everybody that stood up, spoken out on Twitter, spoken to their local legislators, and really gotten this action to be pushed through, because we've seen time and time again, these bills have failed for the assault weapons ban and different things that are around gun control. But now we're starting to see some action because we're showing our persistence. And these politicians know they should be scared because we are the future voters, and we are the future.
David, I got to tell you, I've been watching this legislatively for a very long time, and I can't think of a tougher place to pass that bill in the Florida House of Representatives. And that, especially that issue of raising that age from 18 to 21, that was something you people made happen. There were some of those representatives who voted to do that today were arguing against it even after the shooting. As you know, in Tallahassee, you heard them arguing against raising that age, but you got them there. And I'd also want to get your reaction to Betsy DeVos's visit to the school today.
Well, my reaction to Betsy DeVos's visit to the school, she was talking about a bunch of different things while she was there. But one of the main things that I think people need to realize is she didn't go to a public school. She basically has no experience in public school. She donated $200 million to the Republican Party, and that's really how she got into this place, because it's pay-to-play politics. It's disgusting. She has no previous experience in this area. She's a pawn from corporate America that's working on behalf of the Trump administration and really isn't doing anything. Because if she was going to do things, she would have done that before she got in this position. And one of my friends even asked her today, like, how are you going to increase spending, like, for schools and stuff like that? And she didn't have an answer. She was honestly like, I don't know. And that's the disgusting state of politics that this country's in. She went to a school that was in an active shooting, where 17 people died for just to make herself look better. She didn't actually do anything. She hasn't done anything, and she probably won't. I'd love for her to prove me wrong. But at this point, will she?
David, I think you might know that the president's next scheduled meeting about what he says is about school safety. The subject is going to be video games. What do you think the president will learn about video games?
Has he ever even played a video game? I don't think that's what we need to be focusing on this situation. Schools are important, and what I would love to see is perhaps a 5 to 10% tax on all firearm sales that goes specifically as a categorical grant from the federal government to state governments, where they spend all of this money to harden schools. And the way that they can push these things through is, for example, if they want to put in bulletproof glass, they could diversify it to every congressional and state legislative district so that every person gets jobs in that district. And through economies of scale, the price is high right now, but when there's such a high demand and more schools start implementing these methods of hardening their schools with bulletproof glass, bulletproof doors, and different locks, we will see the price go down and we will see lives being saved. But it's also important to focus on the fact that this isn't about video games, this isn't just about schools, this is about lives. That is what we need to be focusing on. It's not just about schools. It's important to focus on hardening schools because that's where a lot of these atrocities happen. But let's look at Pulse, let's look at Las Vegas. So many concerts and so many amazing people have died in these incidents, and now we're only starting to see action. When is it going to stop? That's my question.
David Hogg, thank you very much for joining us again tonight. And David, I've been admiring how you've conducted yourself since this shooting brought you to our attention. I'm only sorry that you and I have had to meet the way that we have. I wish we could be talking about something else. Thank you very much again for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We have breaking news tonight about what the president is not going to do tomorrow. We are now joined by phone by Stephanie Ruhle, who has some reporting on this. Stephanie, what have you learned?
Indeed, I do. President Trump spent his day, being lobbied by men against moving forward on these tariffs, or at least working on carve-outs. Those trying to convince the president to pull back had gotten him to carve out ally nations, Canada and Mexico. But the president, though it was never on the official schedule, had plans to have a signing meeting, a ceremony tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the White House. And there they were inviting some steel executives, some steel workers. Based on my reporting, that is no longer going to happen. It appears that President Trump, though he's got a lot to say, is now not quite ready to sign this tariff.
So the schedule shows that he is going to have his meeting about video games tomorrow, but he is not going to launch a trade war tomorrow.
And remember, the meeting about video games is far more in line with President Trump and his listening tours. You know how he likes those, and he nods and says yes to whomever, whatever group or whatever stakeholders are in the room. And then when that meeting's over, he changes his tune. So on tariffs, this is where the rubber meets the road. You signed that agreement. It's a go. It seems he's not quite ready to do that.
Stephanie, the understanding is that Gary Cohn is kind of out of the debate in the White House, but he's still technically working there. Has he been influential in what's happened today?
Definitely. I would not say Gary's out of the debate. Gary's out of the White House in a little over a week, but he's definitely engaged in this. I mean, it was Kevin Brady, though, today, who had over 100 signatures, from what I understand, of other Republicans urging the president to think again. And while Gary is leaving the administration, he and others are definitely lobbying the president to really think about this. And not that the idea, they know what the president's policy ideas are, but if the president wants to make an America First plan to help the American worker and help the American economy, it's not America alone, and a 10 and 25% tariff, that's not going to do anything but hurt us.
Very important reporting. Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us with that important reporting tonight. Stephanie Ruhle gets tonight's last word. The 11th hour with Brian Williams starts now.